the rehearsal.
I'm going to record to the cloud. There we go. All right. So welcome to Mr. Tim Tippets, who I can see at the bottom of my screen. I don't know where he is on you guys. We like the Brady Bunch effect here, so I like to pretend like I'm looking down. So like that. So Tim is known online as the VO Tech Guru. You guys have heard me talk about him quite a bit. You've seen some of the panels that I built under his tutelage inside my booth. Tim, did we discuss what you were going to talk about?
Not really. I think that you're just here to answer questions and good advice.
I think if you've got just some general advice for all noobs who are just starting out, just the two or three things that you say that, how do I get this thing going technically? And then I think they'll have plenty of questions anyway. Do you have any?
Sure. I mean, I guess my first comment, for people who are getting into voiceover is like, what the hell were you thinking? But all joking aside, guys, so really the number one thing that you need to focus on is your space. Okay. Microphones and interfaces and all that stuff. Excuse me. Springtime over here. Finally. Yeah. Having an acoustically sound space to voice in is really the single most important thing that you can do. And a lot of the information that's out there on the web is just not relevant because a lot of what's being put out there on the web relates to music, okay? Engineers and artists and so on and so forth. And so you get a very different response from engineers who are used to running kind of in those lanes than you will from someone who's in the know when it comes to voiceover. Okay, so a good example of that would be having the background that I do as a session player and composer and audio guy, and then entering the realm of VO myself. I thought I had a good handle on things, especially with my background in construction, because I at one point started having a family and had to make a pretty tough decision as a signed artist to kind of, go this other route. And so I went into the corporate world, and I was with Chipotle for 7 years as their central head of construction and systems builder guy and R&D guy, and then moved on to a company called Potbelly and did a lot of the same kind of stuff. And so when it came down to materials and things of that nature, I had a pretty clear and strong understanding on that stuff. The audio portion of it, when you're coming from a musical point of view, you're really, you're thinking from a perspective of things being in the mix. Like you're already ahead of it. You're kind of like in that producer mode. So you're hearing the final product when you're entering the realm of voiceover, and not thinking about the fact that your voiceover needs to be as clean as it possibly can be, and the room needs to sound as good as it possibly can sound. Now, the reason that occurs is because typically in a mix, if you have something like a guitar that, like a Stratocaster, for instance, that buzzes a lot when you're not playing it, you simply gate it, okay, which is a way of saying that you turn off its input, okay, and you do that automatically with a plugin. Well, in VO, we don't have that opportunity, do we? Because we're not sitting there in a mix yet. We have to present something that the end user or the producer can listen to, hear the room, hear the voice, hear the EQ, the compression, and so on and so forth. And so when it comes right down to it, when you have a decent room, you can have a relatively inexpensive mic and a relatively inexpensive interface, proper mic technique, and maybe a few presets to kind of get rid of some of the things that we don't like boxiness is something that we get when we're inside rooms, for instance, okay? And knowing where to find that in EQ and pulling that out and so on and so forth will set the stage for you to compete with, believe it or not, the top 20% of VO out there. Because around 80%, I cast as well, around 80% of what comes in is just basically unusable because someone is voicing in a room, or they might be voicing in a closet where they've handled some of the high reflections, but maybe not necessarily the low bassy stuff. Okay. So I would say, Andy, to answer your question, the room is really the single most important thing. That's where you start. And that's where we can just kind of elevate the conversation from there if anyone has any Q&A or whatever.
Well, you just said proper mic technique. So can you talk about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of people have this idea that you're supposed to do this kind of hang loose thing from the mic. Okay. Now, that's fine. I'm in my control room right now. I'm not in my booth, which is over here. If I were in a larger space, such as you might find in a large studio, and I were doing something, kind of animated or whatever, this distance might be okay. But considering my voice and the bass in my voice, which is really the problem when it comes to kind of containing something in a smaller room, is you're going to hear the room because there's a lot of power there. Okay, and when you're in a box like a booth or a closet or any number of places that you might voice, you end up getting this resonance from the room. You actually hear the room. Right? Versus, as I'm sure you can tell when I pull the mic closer to me, it sounds quite a bit more in your face and present and so on and so forth, and a lot more full. So when it comes to mic technique, a lot of people, one of the mistakes that they make at home studios, okay, which I'm going to be doing a tutorial on to change home into pro, by the way, because that's really the expectation these days, is to get away from this concept of being this far away from the mic. Okay? It does not apply these days. You need to get up close on your mic if you can, and here's why. Number one, you can lower your input gain, all right, because you're going to be louder on the mic, obviously. You're closer to it. If you're lowering your input gain, then your noise floor goes down. Does anyone here not understand what noise floor is? Andy, go ahead. You don't understand what noise
I hear you say it sometimes, but
okay.
I just kind of smile and nod.
You just kind of smile and nod. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You're being a good steward. That's good. All right. So guys, noise floor is basically determined by the lowest that your meter goes at any given point in time. We don't really count incidentals such as, moving something, the sound of your breath or whatever. It's what level your input meter is at when you're still and you're holding your breath, essentially. Okay. That's all of the ambient noise, any mechanical noise that you might have in your home, etc., that causes the meter to bottom out. We don't want to look at the high stuff, like the highest that it goes. We want to look at the lowest that it goes, right? Because that is the lowest potential floor for the noise. So we think about floors: third floor, second floor, first floor, and so on. Okay, basement, right? So the lower the noise floor, the lower the input value is on the meter at its lowest point. All right. So when we are looking at that and we're trying to determine what our gain should be, we're really looking at input values when we're speaking of right around minus 12 to minus 6 dB on the meter. That's where you should be on average when you're recording. Okay. So once you have your gain set there, then you can just be quiet, sit still, hold your breath for 5 seconds, maybe count internally and record it. And then look at the lowest point that your meter is writing at. That's your noise floor. Okay. So if I have the mic this far away from me and I want to get myself to that minus 12 to minus 6, I'm going to have to increase my gain. Right? Not only that, but you can hear more of the room. If I get closer to the mic, now I can turn down my input gain. If I turn down my input gain, think about this, the noise floor goes down, doesn't it?
Now, let me interject here because I know some of us don't know what gain means, and I do. So gain is the opposite of volume. If you turn your gain up, your mic is much more sensitive. If you turn your
well, it's not.
And I'm not saying the right words, but
no, it's fine. It's think of it this way. Input gain would be the same as a faucet. So you turn the faucet handle just a little bit, you have a little bit of a flow, right? You turn it up higher, you have more of a flow, right? A good example of this would be if I increase my gain here on the input side, so how much energy I'm giving the signal going into the recording device or software or whatever. As I pull this down, this gain level, you can hear that I'm getting quieter, right? And as I boost it, you can hear that I'm getting louder. I'm just increasing the gain. So I would ask anyone here on the call to give me an example of an audio interface that they have. Anyone have a Scarlett 2i2, for instance?
Somebody does, I know.
Anyone on this call?
Who has the Scarlett interface?
Everyone's muted. Everyone's muted.
I have one.
Marianne.
Marianne, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Marianne. So let's use Marianne as an example. I'm going to pick on you now, Marianne. Okay, here we go.
Sure.
Do you have the Scarlett 2i2 or do you have the Solo?
I believe I have the 2i2.
The 2i2. Okay. So you have your mic. What kind of mic do you have there?
It's a Mojave MA50.
Mojave. Okay. So you've got an XLR cable going from there into the front of the 2i2, right?
Yes.
And you've got those little knobs on the front.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Have you ever noticed how they're either green, yellow, or red?
Yes.
Okay. So when you increase it, I always like to talk about gain knobs kind of in the form of it being a clock, right? Mm-hmm. So if you look at your gain right now, what o'clock would it be at?
I've got mine, I'd say at like 1 o'clock.
Okay. So everyone else listening on the call, she's got an input gain knob, much like you would have a video, or sorry, if you think about your car stereo, your volume, right? But we're not talking about output here. We're talking about inputs, like the signal coming into it. All right. So if right now you said, what o'clock are you sitting at?
1.
Okay, 1 o'clock. So why don't you do this? Why don't you talk and slowly increase that knob to 2 and 3 and 4 o'clock, and let's everyone listen.
Okay, so I'm increasing it and just a little bit more and a little bit more here.
Okay, so everyone can hear that she's getting louder. Okay, so now why don't you slowly decrease it while you're speaking?
Okay, slowly decreasing. The mic should be getting softer. I'm keeping my voice at the same level.
Keep talking. Go all the way down to the bottom.
Gonna keep talking and it'll get lower. And
there you go. Simple as that. Okay. So it's kind of like turning the faucet of your voice on into the mic. It's just a matter of how much input you want. Okay. So if you can lower the gain, the input gain, whatever ambient noise you have will also be lowered. Does that make sense? Okay. And a lower noise floor is a very, very good thing. It's a very good thing. It's what people like me look for when I'm casting someone who's a pro, and assuming that the performance is where it needs to be, I'm looking at that. I'm listening for hiss. I'm listening for ambient noise. I'm listening for incidental noise. I'm listening for the room itself. So a good example of that would be, let's say someone is voicing in the closet and they have nothing inside the closet. All they would really need to do is to fill their closet with clothes, and it would sound completely different. Okay, because those clothes are absorbing all of the energy of the vibration of your voice, and that's what sound is. Sound is energy in the form of vibration. Okay, if you feel your throat when you're speaking, or even the top of your head, you can feel it there. When you're speaking, you feel these vibrations. Yeah, if you hum, you can, right? Anyone who's muted, feel free to try it. Right?
I just realized that I wasn't muted.
You were muted, yeah. I heard you. I was like, either he's practicing it or he's eating like a really good candy bar or something. So these vibrations that are leaving your throat, they go into the air, all right? And we have these molecules that react to those vibrations. They're exactly empathetic to that vibration, actually. Okay, so essentially, molecules like to sit in a place known as equilibrium. So they kind of sit in their center, right? They're just sitting here, and they don't really like to move unless they're disturbed, right? So you disturb them, they push this way, okay, and then they want to go back home to equilibrium, but then they overshoot. And they keep doing that, just like a guitar string, if you think about it, and then they run out of energy. Now, when these guys are pushed, they pass on that energy to neighboring molecules, and a little bit of energy is expended at that point, right? And so after a while, all of the energy is gone, and that's how sound propagates. Now, when you're in a small space like a box, and that's what a booth is, okay? It's a box. What ends up happening is this energy penetrates whatever it is that you have on the surface, if anything at all, and then that vibration comes back toward the mic, and it will keep bouncing all over the room. That's why you can walk into a room that's empty, doesn't have any furniture in it, and you clap and you hear all of that kind of high-end tinning, right? It's that weird kind of echo sound, all right? So you put 2-inch foam or maybe some thin foam on the walls, and it gets a little bit better. But then someone who's a baritone or a bass or whatever gets in there, and those low the low vibrations, the lower cycles, okay, lower frequency stuff is more powerful than the high frequency stuff. So if you don't have a well-treated room, such as panels, as I have in here when I'm mixing music or whatever, then that bass will stick around for a lot longer, okay? And if you get in a relatively small space with a deep voice, then you're going to hear a lot of this kind of woofing. It's kind of like this while the person's speaking. I'm sure you guys have experienced this when you had someone pull up next to you in a Honda CRX with a subwoofer that's bigger than the car, right? It's just that boom, 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 right? But none of the high energies, you know, the high pitch frequencies are penetrating. Only the low ones, because the stuff inside the car is doing a good job of absorbing the high frequencies, but not so much on the low frequencies because they have more power. So when you are in a room and you are speaking, the smaller it is, the boxier it will sound. If you think about it, if I were to take a box this big and put it over my head, it would sound, you know, boxy level X, whatever. Closer, closer, closer. It's going to sound more and more boxy. Okay. So I'll give you guys a good example. And Andy, I'm going to bring in an EQ here, and I'm going to show you what boxiness sounds like. Okay. So Andy, you can hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So let me do something here real quick. Let's bring in, I don't know. Let's bring this in. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is right around 500 hertz. I realize that doesn't mean a whole lot to everyone, but it is the target for this boxy sound, and rooms love to respond to this in the human voice, right? So Andy, do you hear this as I'm increasing this boxiness right now? Do you hear that?
Yeah.
It sounds more and more and more boxy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And now this is an extreme version of that. But the reality is, if I kept this here, right here, if I had joined this call like this, with this sound, you would have said, okay, well, that's the way it sounds. And that's fine. Okay.
Yeah.
And I could be in a small box and you wouldn't really notice much. But at the end of the day, all things being equal, my competition, let's say that this is my competition. He sounds like I sound right now. Okay. When he's voicing in a relatively small space and he has not treated the room properly, and we're competing for the same job. Well, the moment that I handle this boxiness, like I did just now, I'm going to eat that guy's lunch all day long. Okay. Because my audition is going to come in, and then this guy's audition is going to come in. And which one do you think the engineer is going to prefer? Right? He's not going to prefer this. He's going to prefer this. All right. Because it doesn't have that boxy responsive sound. All right. So bottom line. Yeah, go ahead.
Do the boxy again and back off your mic just a little bit.
Sure.
And now?
Okay, so this is with the boxy on.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely, I just wanted to make sure everybody could definitely distinguish it, because your boxy is still pretty good.
Yeah, I appreciate that. But let me continue to do the boxy, and now I'll turn off the boxy. Is that a pretty significant difference between?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good. Okay. So boxiness is one of the things that that is a problem when you're voicing in small spaces, and we're not really aware of it because our hearing becomes normalized, as I said earlier. Okay. And so you're used to hearing yourself a certain way. It may be echo, it may be boxiness, it may be incidental sounds, it may be ambient noise. You could have mechanical devices actually that like air blowers for homes, especially during the winter and summer when these, you know, blowing air through the house. These are things that we don't really take note of because we're used to hearing these things in our everyday life, right? They're normalized. So if you sleep near a train station and you're hearing trains all the time, after a while you don't hear the trains. They don't bother you, right? Same thing when it comes to VO, right? It is the big difference maker. It is the single biggest difference maker between people who are working in VO and people who are not. It doesn't matter how good your voice is. It doesn't matter how good your delivery is. The reality of the situation is, now that I've turned the boxiness back off here, but let me make a point here. If I come in as a promo guy and I'm doing, I don't know, excuse me, I don't know, Sons of Anarchy or something like that. Okay. So if I come in like this on the next Sons of Anarchy, on the next Sons of Anarchy, doesn't matter how well I read it if it sounds like this. But when I take care of the room on the next Sons of Anarchy, big difference. Okay. And any qualified engineer can hear it immediately. Right. So anyway, that's everything I can tell you about booths.
Now, we have not talked about this engineer person yet in this class. So explain why you think he's so important.
Okay, great. Great point. Let me get rid of this plugin so I don't accidentally trigger it later. Remove. There we go. Okay. So the engineer's role, first of all, is to qualify the audio. That's step number one, because any professional outfit is not going to want audio that sucks. That's plain and simple. All right. So you're not going to hand off a bunch of actors to an executive producer where the guy is doing a great read, and in the meantime, you hear the fan blowing in the room. Right? The audio engineer is not going to give that to anybody. And in fact, you'll have an assistant audio engineer who will probably qualify a lot of that stuff before it even gets to the mastering engineer or the master engineer.
So you're saying the engineer has a role in the auditioning process?
Well, not just in the auditioning process, okay, but they play a very, very important role in the whole arc of the process. And so let me break that down for you. So let's say that I send in audio that sounds great. All right. It's been cleaned. It's leveled. It's exactly, you know, I was right for the read. Of course, that's important as well. But, you know, so were 10 other people. Okay. Now, the difference, though, is that my audio is better than those other 9 people. All right. Now, if I give the engineer audio that he can just basically lay into a track and it cuts through and it's clean and he doesn't have to work with it very much, next round, when Mr. or Mrs. Producer asks the audio engineer, you know, what their experience was with that person, it's going to carry a lot of weight. And here's why. Number one, VO, we are the last person in line. We are the painters of the house. Okay. A house can be as big and as beautiful as you can possibly make it, and it won't look like anything special until you put the paint on it. All right. And so a lot of time and effort goes into making sure that that paint is very, very high quality paint, at least at the higher levels. Right. So here's the way it works. You get an idea and you write it down and it looks good on paper. And then you hear the guy or girl say those words. And now not so much, because maybe, you know, you had a different vision in your head than what the cinematographers brought back from the field. All right. And now you're looking at it and you're listening to it and you're saying, yeah, I don't like it so much. So we're going to make some changes. These are called, Andy, patches, which you've done before, right? You patch audio in because a change was made. Now, here's the issue, especially at higher levels. Think about this. When you submit a project to a station or to a network, there's a lot that needs to happen before that airs, all right? First of all, it has to clear everything that the great overlords of language have put into place. Can't have any swear words. Can't be too loud. Can't be too quiet. So on and so forth. Got to go through all that stuff. So you've got 2 to 3 days of submitting that before it can even air, before it even qualifies. Now, since VO is the very last thing in, we get a lot of pressure put on us because there might be changes. Not only that, but you have this lead time to get it to air. And a lot of these things might have a drop dead date. Okay, a good example of that would be me doing the 25th anniversary for Craftsman Tools. All right, it needs to be on the day of the 25th anniversary. There's no point in running it the day after, right? And so, you know, everyone's in a big hurry. They're trying to make it as good as they possibly can. And the VO artist is really carrying a big part of the load and a very heavy responsibility for delivering the message correctly. Because half of anything that you've ever watched is sound, half of the experience. If the sound isn't good, it doesn't matter. You could be watching the Avengers, and if the sound sucked, you'd walk right out. You'd walk out. You wouldn't care, right? But if you take a movie like the Blair Witch Project or something like that, okay, which was all just filmed on videotape, and you got a good story and you got good sound, you got a hit, right? So people won't tolerate that kind of stuff is the point, right? And so since we are the last ones in line, it's that much more important that we're delivering something to the audio engineer that he's happy with, that he can work with very easily, and recommend you for future work. Because the reality is this: when you start out, it's going to be a little bit tough. It usually is. And then you build relationships because you did a good job. You know, people want to talk to you a little bit before they, you know, they're doing a live session with you or whatever. You make friends, they're happy, you're happy. And then before you know it, these people are hiring you 9, 10, 15, 20 times. Andy, you've experienced that several times. Okay. People like to go with what they're familiar with, and they love the easy button. Right? Who doesn't love the easy button? Right?
That's right.
So the two rules are, you know, first rule is be nice, and second rule is make it easy.
Is that, man, you're not the first guest who has said this kind of thing.
Oh, well, okay.
I think Randy Ryan, didn't he talk about being nice class? He's the voice casting director for World of Warcraft. He runs Hamster Ball Studios down in Austin.
It's really important to not be a difficult person.
Right.
In this business.
Because there's lots of other people who aren't.
Yeah. Now don't let people, you know, roll over you either. Okay. Because so you'll find that the lowest paying clients are usually the most difficult to deal with.
Ooh, ain't that right? Mm.
Truth. Okay. So, you know, it's just, you know, guys, this is a marathon. It's not a sprint, right? If you have it in your mind that, you know, you're building something here for the long term and you've got a goal, let's say your goal is you're going to, you know, you want to kill it. Okay. Then just get very, very serious about it. Yeah. It's the best advice that I can give you is. Yeah.
So, all right, let's do Q&A. I know you guys have questions about your stuff.
Go for it.
You got to wait for somebody to unmute.
Hey, Tim. This is Paul here, by the way. I don't know.
Yeah, how you doing, man?
Great.
Paul, hey, Paul, aren't you in Chicago?
No, Albany, New York.
Okay, not close at all. Never mind.
Tim's
Tim's in Chicago. That's fine.
It's only like a 13-hour Amtrak ride.
Okay, gotcha.
Both me and Cole are close to Chicago.
Okay, gotcha.
Cool. Right on.
So I had a question about sort of distortion in sort of louder volumes. So I know that there's essentially a limit to what a mic can record with before it starts distorting, before it can't capture all of that sound.
Sure.
And I guess what I was wondering is, do different types of mics have different levels that they can record up to, and is that the only sort of ceiling that you need to keep in mind, or is there one for recording interfaces and things like that as well? Sure.
Well, go ahead. Did you have something else? Sorry.
Oh no, I didn't explain that well, but
no, you did fine. You did fine. Actually. So yeah, what you're talking about is sound pressure level, SPL. It's a rating, all right. And the idea behind it is to what degree a mic will handle input. Now, some mics are more sensitive than others, and some less so, right? And what it really comes down to, though, is in the modern age of microphone technology, we have a wide array of very affordable, high quality microphones that will handle input, to a certain degree anyway. I mean, you wouldn't want to get really, really close to your mic and scream into it, obviously. But you need to think of this in terms of it kind of brings me back to studio session days where I'm thinking about people who come in, might have even been, one of the singers in our band or any other band that we were in, who really doesn't understand the difference between having a stage microphone, which is a dynamic microphone, which can handle a lot, right? We see it a lot of this stuff in screamo, et cetera, right, where they're just eating the mic, right? And a dynamic mic is designed to handle that type of thing. These are the types of mics that you can bang nails and stir paint with, okay? But when it comes to a studio microphone that's very sensitive, it has a very large diaphragm, first of all, right? For anyone who doesn't know what the diaphragm is, if you're looking inside your mic, if you can see it, it's that round thing in there, and it's basically the ear of the microphone, okay? And if you ever want to look at it, if you can hold your iPhone or a light behind it and look through the grill, and then you'll see it. Those have, first of all, a pattern that kind of spreads out. So it's kind of like a net, right, that picks up sound within this certain shape. Some of them will have that on both sides of the mic, depending on the type of microphone that you're using. And some are very directional, like the 416 here, which has just a very, very tight cone on it. And it's used on movie sets most of the time, but it's used a lot for promos, et cetera. It has a lot of rejection, and that's why, side note. But anyway, the point is that when you're on a microphone and you are dealing with concerns about what the mic can handle, that's when it's time to start thinking about two things. One is gain, input gain. Okay, how much of the interface are you, how much are you turning up the input at the interface? If you're going to get louder, and you're looking at your levels on your meter inside your DAW, right? Your digital audio workstation. That's Audacity, Pro Tools, Audition, Twisted Wave, etc. If you're not clipping that, which means that you're getting to the zero, and you're distorting, that's called clipping. Okay, and you're able to get your peak somewhere around -12 to -6 on average. You can do two things. You can lower your gain, and if it still sounds distorted, then back off your mic. Because one thing's for sure. It would be better to back off of your microphone and do one of those, all right, soldier, move out, something like that, and pull it away and hear a little bit more of the room, rather than get right on the mic and try to be that loud and actually distort the signal. Because if it's not happening inside of the software that you're recording in, it might be happening inside of the mic, right? So it's really kind of a push and pull thing. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Did I answer all your questions there?
Yeah. That was great.
Cool. All right.
So what is I was switching microphones, and so I was switching rooms. So what?
Ooh, fancy.
Yeah, isn't that nice?
Ew.
So what is the if you're going to record yelling, what's the technique for that? I know we talked mic technique. Obviously, you don't want to be all close to the mic like you were talking about before.
Right.
What's the technique so that you can yell and not sound like doo-doo?
Well, the technique really is to first of all, get the mic further away from you. All right. And if I get louder like this, does it sound like I'm distorting to you? Or do I just sound very angry right now?
Angry.
Okay. But it's not distorting.
Not much.
Okay. All right. So if it was, I would back it off further, maybe. All right. And still maintain loudness.
So do you not, you don't adjust the gain at all when you're doing that?
Depends on the room, right? Because if I'm in a larger room with, treatment, and the room can handle that, and I'm not really hearing the room. By the way, if you guys ever want to hear what your room sounds like, talk into the back of your microphone. Just turn it around, put your headphones on, or record, then listen to it later. But that will give you a good idea of what your room sounds like, is to talk into the back, the non-active side of the diaphragm. Okay. Now, if that's not working, what I just did is not working because I'm hearing too much of the room, or the mic won't handle it. Typically, by the way, guys, the mic will handle it. Okay. It takes an awful lot of energy to take a mic, unless the mic is, like a snowball or, some other $39 microphone, then yeah, it might be overly sensitive to input. But at that point, if I'm hearing something that's kind of weird and I'm getting ready to do the session, which it's all about prep, right, before you start voicing, because you don't want to voice 15 or 20 minutes of something only to have it, end up like a dumpster fire, right? So getting that set up properly in that situation, if I felt as though I'm listening live or even listening back, I might lower my input gain and bring my mic closer, or I might leave the mic where it is because I'm not hearing too much of the room, and then lower my input gain. Okay. It's really just a matter of a couple of things. One is everything that I just said. And two, what is the context? Okay. If I am doing a voiceover where I know that I'm in the middle of Manhattan on the street, am I going to be as concerned about the room? Possibly. I'm on a street. I'm not supposed to be in a room. Right? So if I'm doing dialogue replacement and you're hearing my room, and I'm doing a replacement for an actor, better not hear the room. Not a good idea. Not if he's standing on, 96th and Broadway. Okay. So really just kind of thinking through it at the end of the day is what's going to get it done for you. But when it comes to microphones and input values and all that kind of stuff, getting closer to your mic and having it offset like this is a great way to tone down your room, because first of all, your input is stronger because you're closer to the mic. Secondly, when you're cross-talking a mic like this, if you think about that diaphragm taking a picture of your mouth, so both this way, okay, all right, and this way, you wouldn't want it pointed toward your shoulder or anything like that, okay? You'd want it basically taking a picture of your mouth. Now, here's the advantage of that. If I'm talking directly into a mic, even with a pop filter, and I go plosives, puh, you can hear that. But what if I cross-talk the mic like this? I still sound the same, but I can say plosives. I can say Peter Piper, and not have that problem.
Yeah, who was that last week that I recommended talk across the mic instead of into it?
Marianne, looks like.
That was me.
Was that you? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was because of the plosives, wasn't it?
Yep.
Now, Marianne, is your mic a top address mic or is it a side address mic?
I don't know what that
Okay,
means.
so this is great.
Oh, we're looking at it.
Okay, so this is great. We get to do a live kind of medic thing here. All right.
Okay.
So
I suspect where you're going with this. I can see.
I'm volunteering Marianne here. So, all right. So here's what we're gonna do. So the first thing is I'd like you to take the pop filter and move it away from the microphone. Okay. Now what model is that? A Mojave?
I'm going to make her the spotlight video.
Okay, so here's what I do with a lot of my students when I go through this stuff. So you have the Mojave, and what is the model number?
MA50.
MA50. Okay. Well, you spent a little bit of money on that microphone.
I got it used, which helped, but
Yeah. All right. So I'm not going to embarrass you, I promise you. Okay. Right. You're talking into the top of the microphone. Right.
Okay.
Now, what I want you to do is I want you to take that microphone, and I'm not sure what your mount looks like or how it is that you can adjust everything. But right now you're talking into, like, I want you to imagine the diaphragm that I was talking about earlier. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like a camera lens, and it needs to take a picture of your mouth. Okay. Right now it's taking a picture of your floor.
Okay.
Okay. So go ahead and adjust that mic until you can look through that grill that's covering the mic. Okay. So just adjust it and then look through it.
And in my experience, the front of the mic because it's where the logo is.
Typically.
Right.
Typically. Okay. But some top address mics have the logo on the side and we don't know that they are. Like this is a top address mic, right? I'm not side addressing the thing, right? All right. Now, you have the front of the mic is where? Is it pointed towards you right now?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Oh.
Now, what I'd like you to do is I would like you to get the mic in front of you around 4 inches away from your lips, okay? So just put your fingers, like 4 fingers between you and the front, okay? Good.
Okay.
Now what I want you to do is I want you to turn that mic slightly to the side, okay? Is it right in front of you right now?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say it's right in front of you. What I want you to do is turn maybe 20 degrees like this, okay? And then turn your head back this way so you're cross-talking the microphone. Okay?
Hang on.
You can do it.
I didn't see the reference.
Oh, it's okay. So if the mic's in front of you like this and you're about 4 fingers away,
Mhm.
20 degrees this way, okay, and then turn your head back this way so you're cross-talking the mic. You want that diaphragm. Do you have some, can you see the diaphragm in there? You can see it, can't you? That round thing inside there?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. Imagine that's a camera lens, all
Okay.
right? And you're going to have it off to the side just a little bit, and you're going to cross-talk that microphone. Okay, you're not going to talk. There you go. Beautiful. Now, how far away are you from the mic right now?
4 or 5 inches ish.
Okay. Can anyone hear a difference in how it is that she sounds?
Oh yeah.
I know I can.
Okay, sounds a lot better, right? The proximity is there. She sounds more in your ear. The warmth in her voice is now present, where before we were getting more of the room, right? And now you could actually lower your gain. You might be at the right level right now. I'm not saying that you're not.
Marianne,
Okay.
say some stuff.
Hi, my name is Marianne, and I'm talking into my microphone.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So there you go. And you can't really hear her room anymore. Okay. So
Okay.
just a basic principle. I see some clapping over there from Jen. She likes it. So just a basic principle like that and getting up on the microphone correctly will make a huge difference in the perception of people who are receiving your audio. Okay. And
Okay.
so whether you're a YouTuber, whether you're a podcaster, whatever the deal may be, when you set yourself up for success in this way, you have now jumped from the 80% into the top 20%. Okay. And by the way, the top 10% are the ones who get most of the work. Okay. So just by doing that one little thing, you've now pulled yourself out of that 80%. And you're now in that kind of, upper tier.
And I just haven't been looking close enough to see that your microphone was sideways. I'm sorry.
I didn't realize that that's how it was supposed to be faced. So
But hey, the AT2020, I know a couple of you bought that. It kind of looks the same too, and it's much more cylindrical. So it looks like that might be an easy mistake to make with that too. Same with the Yeti.
I mean, think about this, guys. Whenever we're watching the news, how is the mic positioned? Right? It's always pointed at the person. The top of the mic is pointed at the person.
yeah.
Not only that, there are a ton of mics that are top address mics, and they're vocal mics or they're podcast mics. We see it like if you watch, I don't know, anyone, Joe Rogan does a podcast. Okay. Now he's got an SM7B and he talks into the top of the microphone. So it's easy to think to yourself, well, why wouldn't you do that? Right. But that is a dynamic microphone also. Okay. And dynamic microphones, typically, they're top address, and you just, and we see it all the time, whether it's the Grammys or the Emmys or the news or.
Yeah, whatever a musician's singing into, like in a bar. But then when you see a video of them in a studio, it's a side address mic.
Yeah, you'd have to go back to some of the old movies where you see someone talking into a side mic on a stage,
where they would hang from that long cord from the ceiling. Or boxing announcers.
Yeah, right, exactly, right. So and that's one of the big differences between a radio sound and a pro voiceover sound, by the way, is the dynamic microphone. Because dynamic microphones are meant to reject a lot of the environment. They're meant for you to be able to get up on stage and not feed back because they're not too sensitive, and so on and so forth. Okay. But when we use a microphone that is not a dynamic microphone, okay, and it's a condenser microphone, we're hearing a lot more of the human element in that. So that's why when you're listening to someone up on stage, it's a live venue, right? It may sound good because, it's being mixed well and the rest of the music is going on. But when you're listening to the studio record, it sounds far better than the live event. It may not be as fun, but it sounds far better because these are recorded with condenser microphones with very, very sensitive diaphragms inside of them.
I brought visual aids.
Good.
Oh, and I had a bag for my microphone.
There you go.
This Audio Technica bag that they gave me, the zipper broke just now. How about that? I'm
Unlucky.
All right, so this is the SM57, which I know Tim is familiar with as a microphone. It's the workhorse of rock music, and it's a top address, like he was talking about. So you'd sing into that like this.
Yep.
and I did many nights back when I was a rock star.
Now, to give you an idea of the type of microphone that we're talking about here, all right. So that's the SM57, which typically I would mic an amp or something like that with. Now, if I'm playing through a Marshall amp and it's cranked and I'm, just really getting on it, and that thing's an inch away from the speaker, literally. Okay, that gives you an idea of what a dynamic microphone is all about. Okay, if you put that other microphone in front of it,
This one's
holding, what is that? The 4040?
This is the 2020
or the 2020? Okay, if you put that in front of a speaker cone, that mic would be destroyed. Like I don't think you could get the input low enough because it's just so much more sensitive. Okay, so yeah. Anyway,
but this is a side address. You're talking to that like this, not like this.
Yeah, exactly. It just looks like you're supposed to talk into the top of it because, show everyone the top of it. Like, what the hell's that grill doing there? That doesn't make any sense, right? But that's the way it was.
Same as the rest of the mic, right?
Yeah. So anyway, you guys might have the LED lights on the back of your phone or whatever, stick it behind your mic and look at where the diaphragm is. Look at its orientation and understand where its projection is. Go and look at the microphone online and see what its pattern is. Sometimes one of the biggest problems that I run into when someone is not familiar with microphones is that they will have it in some sort of an omni pattern because a mic might have several options, right? So it might be two-sided, so you can have two singers on. There you go. Andy's showing you right there where you can see it. There you go. There's the diaphragm.
See that circle in there? That's the diaphragm.
So just the pattern alone on a mic, because some mics have patterns that you can put them in. You want to be in a cardioid pattern, which is just kind of this kind of almost round out in the front, right? Nothing coming in from the back, nothing coming in from the sides. At least the majority of it's not coming in from the sides. And so, yeah, understand your microphone and how it is that you relate to that microphone is the point. And so now Marianne is obviously in a much better situation.
She already had a pretty good sound. So Matthew says, now I'm wondering if I have my Yeti right. I have it upright with the logo side facing me. I'm wondering if that's right or if the top of it needs to be tilted towards me. No, Yeti's side address. You talk right into the side of it. Mm-hmm. Just like we've been talking about, Matthew.
That's correct. That's correct. Yep. Now, okay, so Yeti, great example. Why don't you come on board if we can hear you instead of typing and talk about all of the patterns, because this would be a great live example. Okay. Do you have the blue Yeti or do you have not the USB Yeti, or do you have the dual?
It's the USB one.
Okay. So do you see the different patterns on the front of your mic?
Yeah.
Okay. So get close to that microphone so we can all hear you really well.
Okay.
Okay. And put your hand on that pattern switch. Okay. And you can say whatever, just, you don't have to sing it, but maybe recite Mary Had a Little Lamb or anything else that gets it done for you. And why don't you speak to us while you're switching those patterns?
Okay. Mary had a little lamb. If I can turn this. Yes. I'm having a hard time turning it. Oh. Its fleece was white as snow. Ooh. And everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go. Now one day the lamb went to the market and followed Mary all the way home. And that was it.
Okay. So obviously a huge difference between the different, the patterns. Okay. So what I want you to look for is the pattern that looks like a balloon, a one directional balloon that's kind of, pushing out in one direction. All right. That's a cardioid pattern. All right. Now get up on the mic and say anything at all.
All right. Let's see. I feel like it's on the cardioid right now.
Mm-hmm.
This how the sound is working and checking to see if everything sounds good.
Okay. So is it on the cardioid pattern right now? Okay.
Yes.
And what position is that in? How many different, I forget. Let me look it up here real quick.
It's like the second from the right. believe.
Second from the right. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, I believe it has. Doesn't it have like 4 of them?
Yeah, it has 4 different like patterns. So the
Okay.
courtyard's like the third one.
You see the one that looks like a heart?
Yes.
That's the one you want.
Yeah, it's on the heart one.
Good. And how close are you to the mic right now?
About 4 inches.
And is it pointed towards you, the diaphragm? Okay, turn the mic around now. And talk into that.
Okay.
Well, you had your mic backwards.
And I muted it. Okay.
Okay, now you sound way better.
Sounds much better, yeah.
So with the Yeti, they want the Yeti logo on away from you.
Oh, so I did have it backwards.
Yeah. I'm not sure which side that they want toward you or behind you. But the point is that just with the little bit of research that we did just now with me looking up the patterns.
Yeah, I had to take it apart. I moved recently, so must have put it back in wrong when I
Yeah. It's hey, listen, man, you're not pro VO until you've talked into your mic backwards accidentally.
Yeah, I've done it.
I guarantee you. Because you break down, you tear.
It's hard to do with the 416.
Yeah, it is.
Because the other end of it has the cable in it. But with the 2020, I've talked into it backwards.
Yeah, so whatever it is that you need to do, Matthew, in order to, remember that that's the front of your mic, obviously that's what you want to use moving forward because it's going to make all the difference in the world for you now.
You just put a little label that says F on it.
Put a big sign that says "Talk at this side."
Talk into this side.
Hey, and I'm not lying to you. In the Army, we've got an anti-personnel mine, a Claymore mine, and it's shaped kind of like a rectangle. And literally on one side of it, it says "Front toward enemy." No lie. It's been 60 years it said that because
that's fantastic.
Well, it would be awful if you faced it the other way, and so because it blows shrapnel in a 50-meter direction, right? And I've seen a million guys set it up wrong, even when it says "front toward enemy" on it in training.
In training.
Which is why we do it. Anyway, well, that was a great find there for that. So what other? So starting microphones, cheapo starting microphones. What do you think?
Oh, so
I mean. What I'm asking for is a recommendation. I don't want you to say they suck, don't use them because.
No, I'm not going to say that. I mean, I never would because.
You started by saying you could do pretty well with an inexpensive mic if your room sounds good and your technology is good.
Well, you can share screens and audio, right?
Yeah, you should be able to.
We can have everyone here listen to this here real quick. Let me find it. Why don't you go ahead and maybe gather some questions while I look for this video, because if you can share your sound and your screen, then I'll let you hear what $120 mic with proper mic technique and proper and having good presets and all that other fun stuff, what that sounds like.
Well, and I'll tell you, my demo was recorded on an AT2020.
Okay, well, there you go. Right. So,
and the engineer was there in Chicago. We did it by Source Connect. It was Jeff Feeney. Do you know Jeff with Sound Advice or with Big House? I can't remember who's. Anyway,
think so. I don't believe so.
I thought everybody in Chicago knew each other. All right.
No, we don't. I'm not quite sure why it's not on here. Let me look at my Creator Studio portion of my. Okay, here we go. Now I found it. We got that. We got you installing the Roxel in your booth there as well. All right. So, Andy, how do I? Oh, I guess I can send this through the chat to just you, okay. And then you can play it from there. So let me grab this for you here real quick.
Can you
share your sound automatically, or do you need to unshare your screen or no, you would share your screen, wouldn't you? And then you would click share sound as well.
Yeah.
You've done that before, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Ethan, yes, the AT2020 is side address.
All right, so I will send it just to you. So Here we go. All right, here's the link. So you can click on that, and then you can share your screen and the sound. And what you guys are about to hear is an MXL mic that's about $120. A guy who contacted me who was not on the microphone correctly, did not have any presets, and his inputs were not where they need to be. And so, yeah, just pull that all the way to the left, and then you'll hear pre, and then you'll hear the post.
Need to sell your structured settlement or annuity payment? Take a little, take a lot, take it all. 877 cash now. Need to sell your structured settlement or annuity payment? Take a little, take a lot, take it all. Call 1-877 cash now.
Dang.
So there you go. All right. And that's a $120 microphone. So, you know, people can, I mean, look, there are levels of diminishing returns as you get, you know, up there in price range with microphones, but there are certain microphones that may be potential trouble for certain users at a price point that is lower than it otherwise should be. You're still sharing your screen, by the way, Andy. Just,
yeah.
You know.
Confused by my interface.
Okay. And some of those issues might be if we take a mic that's called a Neumann U87, and it's a very, very well-known microphone and a very expensive microphone, right around $3,000 to $3,500. Now, this microphone is known for having a lot of warmth, a lot of really great color, and a nice top end on it without being overly sibilant because it's kind of like smoothed out. All right. Now, there are others who claim, and you see these reviews on YouTube where they're like $100 microphone versus a U87. And then they, you know, run their little comparison, and maybe what's not being noticed is that the $100 microphone is extremely sibilant. The S's are very hot, very sharp, very annoying, right? So you do reach a level where there are diminishing returns. I mean, to be honest with you, when it comes to voiceover, all right? But I'd say the U87 is right around where it tops out. Like if you're buying mics beyond that for voiceover, you're not doing yourself any favors. Right. The mic that I'm on here right now is $1,000 mic, the 416, same one Andy uses. Right.
And
but
I think Celeste just got one as well, didn't you, Celeste? I see the ears.
Someone got a 416. That's awesome.
I think a
Yeah,
couple.
I'm not sure if you guys can hear me though. If I
can hear you, yeah.
Okay,
Oh,
correctly.
look at you. Those ears are cool. That's pretty cool. What are those little LEDs on the ears?
Part of her headphones.
That's cool. I like that. What's up? So yeah, the 416. There you go. Cool. There we go. So a lot of side rejection, right? And what did you notice in the difference between the 416 and the mic that you had before? What were some of the immediate things that you noted?
I noticed that I sounded a lot more crisp. I noticed also because I have the Blue Yeti, whenever I kind of tend to get higher pitched at times.
Okay.
And it's not as distorted whenever I go in that higher range.
Okay. So there are some examples of how it is that, you know, spending a little more money might, you know, give you an advantage. Now, the 416 also gives you the opportunity to travel, for instance, in ways that you wouldn't be able to with the full, you know, full-blown cardioid, you know, pattern and, you know, condenser microphone that's very, very sensitive to the environment because it is so focused, right? But the moment I turn this off axis, now we have a problem. So you have to deal with that, right? You have to have it pointed at you.
Yes.
Yeah, so those are some of the differences that may be apparent as you begin to spend more and more. But that is really the whole idea. Like as you begin to succeed, you should be putting money into improving your gear, right?
Yes.
Just like you would anything else in life. You know, if you were a race car driver and you won a race with a $500 car and it was a $5,000 price, it'd be wise to go and buy a $1,500 car at that point, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would.
And then win some more races and just, you know, buy some new tires and then start hiring a crew and so on and so forth, right? So it's the same principle. But when you're starting out, okay, we shouldn't be going out and spending $10,000 on a studio because that's just...
You don't really know what you're doing, so you're just trying to find what placement you're at, what range you're at.
Exactly right. Exactly right. You know, so much of this is about getting good at voiceover to begin with, right?
Yeah.
And you know, you're not really doing yourself any favors if you're spending way too much money. I mean, look, there is a point that you should be at where most of the major concerns are out of, they're not in play. Which would be, you know, a room that doesn't sound good, too much noise in the background, you know, not being on mic correctly, not having, you know, the proper effect stack, too much compression. There are any number of things that you could end up doing, all right, that might affect the outcome of, you know, you being hired or not being hired. Or if you're not looking to do that, like you're looking to be a YouTuber or something like that, some of the more successful YouTubers, if you'll notice, they sound good, right? They just do. And they've either gotten the advice from someone who's in the know and put them, you know, where they need to be. Or, you know, maybe they already knew. Who knows? But the fact is they sound good.
Yeah.
Right? Not a whole lot to distract you from watching and listening to them. So anyway, congrats on the 416. That's awesome.
Thank you. I love it so far.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. What else, Andy?
I was just talking up a storm and realized I was muted because I'm running my fan here in the booth. Hey, Gretchen was asking what was that microphone in that video we watched. That was an MXL, right?
That was the what was that? The MXL. I don't remember the model number.
The 990 is going for $80 these days.
I don't think it was the 990.
The 550 is $99. The 440, oh, you don't want a 440.
Let me tell you.
But Gretchen was asking because she's thinking about buying a mic, and she says she wants to sound like that one.
Well, okay. So again, this comes down to what you're hearing there is the guy is on point with the mic now. He's got his gain set correctly, and he's got the mic in the proper direction. It's, you know, it's off to the side. He's cross talking it. But what you're also hearing is my effect stack that I set up for him. Okay. So just because he has that microphone doesn't mean that you're just going to talk into that mic and sound that way.
Right.
Right. 80%, maybe 70% of it is, you know, let's get your levels correct, get you, you know, set up properly. And then the rest of it is let's get rid of the stuff that we don't want, like rolling off the low end, all the low end noise that's not present in our voice anyway. And then getting rid of some of the boxiness, and maybe with that mic and that talent, we have a little too much heat in the sibilance zone, or maybe we need a little bit of control with compression, you know, to kind of even things out. Any number of things, okay, that get it there. But it's like what I tell a lot of my students is it's a lot like making really good soup. Right? You don't throw in a handful of salt and then a pinch of pepper, right? It's always the same thing. It's like a bit of salt, bit of pepper, you know, you taste it. Okay, now I need to throw in some oregano. I could use a little bit of this, you know. So it's all of these things together that are kind of, you know, just what I'd like to say, kissing the audio. It's the combination of all these things that makes it sound great. It's not any one, there's like no magic bullet, in other words. Okay, you have to bring all of these things together. And that's when you have this, you know, that's when you're bridging the gap between what we heard before and what we heard after. But if you're interested in the microphone, it was an MXL microphone. And I want to say it might be this one I'm looking at right now.
Yeah, and you commented it was a $100 MXL and a homemade booth using a $120 audio interface.
Yeah, well, I think the mic was $120 if I remember correctly. I think it was something. It was like 120,
It was probably the 990 then.
140, something like that. Maybe I don't know.
So here's in class, here's what I'm getting at, and we've gone a little bit over an hour already, and we usually roll a little bit longer. But I want you to know that there's a guy like Tim Tippets out there. And really, for the rest of your career, for the rest of my career, anytime something new happens in my booth, he's the guy I'm going to email and spend a little money with to compensate him for his time and say, dude, I just bought this new interface. Help me get it sounding good. you know, dude, I just got a new microphone. Help me get it sounding good. Dude, I just bought a $3,000 Neumann U87. Let me spend a couple $100 on you to help me get it sounding good. So know that there's this guy out here who can do that for you. Now, there's a question up in the chat, Tim, and I'm going to reword it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Just real quick, it was the 990.
Okay.
Yeah, the 990,
which is about $100.
So yeah, I think it's like close. I don't know. Anyway,
I just had them pulled up a minute ago. It was the 550 was $80 now, and the 990 was like at 100. But regardless, here's the question.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say I have $500 to spend on upgrading my gear. Tell me how to spend it.
Whew.
Is that a better way to ask that question, Matthew?
I think, yeah.
Because he was like, what's a good mic for $3,500? More importantly, you know,
$500 to just upgrade, would be a good.
Yeah, because I would say it's not necessarily a $500 mic, but it's a mic and some stuff. And how do you?
Okay, is it okay if I just drop something inside this text thing here and send a link, and that way everyone can see it, I guess?
Yeah.
Put it in the chat.
Here is one microphone that I recommend a lot. Let's see.
Because I throw out AT2020 a lot, but that's for like, you got $100 to start.
Yeah, right.
The
Exactly.
AT2020 is, there's no interface. There's no nothing. You're going.
Yep. This one is the E100S, the CAD E100S. And wow. Is it on sale? What's going on here? Make sure that this thing is not used or something. It's in stock. Okay. This microphone's usually $500, but for whatever reason, it's currently $368.47.
What is it?
It's the CAD E100S. And
somebody in this class has that one, I believe.
Yeah, I'm wondering
who's got the CAD E100. Is it Emily?
I guess it's on sale or something. I don't know. It's usually like $130 more than this.
I think it's Emily that has the CAD.
Okay. Well, anyway, I'm going to send it in the chat so everyone can check out this microphone. I thought I just did.
You did.
You did. There it is.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
I did it.
Yeah. I had another guy email me the other day asking about this. There's another VO guy that does a lot of videos that recommends this one highly. It's the, what's his name? The Booth Junkie.
Oh, Booth Junkie. Yeah.
Booth Junkie really recommends this one with a Zoom interface. But yeah, he's a big fan of that one.
Okay. The microphone that you're looking at here, if for anyone who's looking at it, has a roll-off switch on it, and that basically filters out a lot of the low-end stuff. Okay. Now, it also has a pad on it, I believe, like a minus 10 dB pad. So, Paul, you were asking earlier about getting really, really loud. Like, let's say you had to get really, really loud. This mic would allow you to drop the input by 10 dB literally right there on the mic, and then you could get that much louder. So that's another huge advantage to it.
So you hit the switch, you yell, you hit the switch again, you go back to normal.
Yeah, but like really yelling. You know what I mean? You'd have to be getting pretty loud.
Video games, dying.
Yeah. Yeah, something like that probably be a good idea to use the pad, but you'll notice when you do put the pad on that you'll have to increase the gain on your interface because 10 dB, I mean, to give you guys an idea, in theory, you know, we're talking about, you know, real world versus digital, but whenever you move something 6 dB, the perception is that it's twice as loud or twice as quiet. Okay, so a 10 dB cut on input, you're going to need to raise your gain back up. Okay, but that's a great way to be able to get really, really loud on a microphone and not have to worry about blowing it out, right? And this right now is on sale for, which I haven't seen before. This is usually what they go for used, and that's why I was checking to see if it was maybe a used unit, but it says...
They may be upgrading or bringing out a new model soon.
I don't know about that, but $368. This is an amazing deal for this microphone.
And then what about for an interface? What do you like?
Okay, so interfaces for me, you make a pretty big jump when you go from just having an interface to having an interface that produces real-time compression and EQ and so on and so forth. Like you heard me doing earlier, I was able to change my EQ in real time. Okay, that's because I'm using what's called DSP. It's inside my Apollo Twin, which I don't recommend for anyone who's just starting out because that's a $700 purchase just for your interface. Okay,
it's one of my next purchases, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, it would make sense for you, right?
Yeah.
It would make sense for anyone who wants to hire someone to create presets for them inside that unit. If you have that kind of money, then it makes a ton of sense because you're always going to sound good when you're printing to tape, if you will. And if you're doing a live session or you're talking to someone like we are right now, okay, you're hearing all of that stuff live and in real time, right? And it can be a real difference maker when you're in a session and you have the engineer who's with the producer saying, "What are you running over there? You know, it sounds great." You know, that's always a way to start off a session, right?
Or even if it's not an engineer, people who don't even know that they don't know, they just know they like how you
right. And that number is increasing and increasing. I think, Andy, we've talked about this. I think e-learning was like a $1.2 billion business last year.
It's going to be $300 billion in the next 5 years. 300 billion.
300 billion in the next 5. What was the number last year? What was?
I don't even remember, but man, it's insane.
Yeah,
But you're right. You know, you're doing a session like this with an e-learning developer, or let's say I got an ad agent in Austin, Texas. Well, she doesn't know. She just knows what she likes.
Right. You have a lot of mom and pops too who don't know. You know, they're putting out a video and they're on a tight budget, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you come in sounding great, and they're able to put a music bed underneath it, and you're just punching right through and you sound great, then, you know, obviously you're saving them a huge amount of time and effort and worry and concern because that's their life. They're dealing.
Leanne, you have a question.
There we go. Yeah, I was wondering if it mattered on the type of mic between singing and VO.
So there's a lot of crossover there.
You're asking in particular reference to singing in VO, right? Like when you have characters that need to sing?
No,
like
just
you're talking about like on stage or something.
Yeah, like if I wanted to cover a song on YouTube or something.
Right. So I have the TLM 103, Neumann TLM 103. And I've done a lot of commercial beds, you know, singing and whatnot on that microphone. And it's one of the top VO mics, you know, and it also sounds really good for singing as well, you know, because it's just a high quality microphone, right? So, but then you get into these other microphones like the NT1A, the Rode NT1A, all right? Rode's a great company, but the Rode NT1A is a very potentially sibilant microphone. So singing and getting away from it where you may not have the heat of all of those, you know, S's kind of burning your ears might be good. But then when you start doing VO on it, if you have, you know, if you're a sibilant speaker, if your S's are particularly strong, then it's a bad idea. This is where we see an increase in return as we go up. Because if you're looking for duality, right, then it makes all the sense in the world to upgrade to something that's going to sound really, really good, right? So, and there are several of those mics out there, like a U87 is a great example of that. You can use it for VO, video games, promo, singing. I mean, you've heard, you know, plenty of artists on the U87, and, you know, any artist you can imagine would be singing on a U87 because it's pretty much a studio standard.
So is the Neumann family just like that? The whole family of mics?
Neumanns are just, I mean, look, man, they're German. They're very precise. You know, that's the thing, you know. And Neumann is just, you know, do they come in different flavors? Yeah, definitely. Some of their microphones are not good for some purposes. But when you get a Neumann, you're going to get a quality microphone. You know,
is the 102 almost as good as the 103?
Yeah, so it has a higher. It depends on the situation. It also depends on the voice. Me personally, I don't like myself on the 102 as much as I like myself on the 103. But the SPL rating is higher, so that sound pressure level, the input that we were talking about earlier, Paul, that has a higher rating, so you can get louder on it without having to, worry about it. And it's also a smaller microphone. Okay, but yeah, that CAD there, the CAD that I just sent the link is a multi-purpose microphone. That thing gets used for any number of things, from singing to recording a cabinet, guitar, bass, VO, and so on and so forth. And it oddly sounds strangely, and I know this is weird because of the type of the microphone it is, but when I voiced on the CAD E100S, it sounds a lot like the 416, which is weird.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's it's got that big diaphragm in there, and here I'm on a shotgun mic. But when I set them up on the same preset, I mean, they sound very, very similar. And I'm far from the only person who's said that, by the way. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. And for, I don't know, right now it's $368.
So that's a good one.
Well, it's normally $500. So, I might be buying another E100S now that I saw that.
Get it while the getting's good.
Yeah.
Would you be able to just talk for a little bit about the benefits of going with a shotgun type mic over the CAD that you had linked us? Like what the two styles give you?
Sure. So the CAD is going to have a much broader net when it comes to capturing sound, right? It's going to be more sensitive. What a shotgun mic does for you, a couple things, especially with the 416. So I'll hold this up to the camera so you guys can see those little slits on the side. The same thing is on the other side of the microphone, and those are 180 degrees it's a round mic, right? So they're 180 degrees apart, and as a result of that, when you do that, you throw things out of phase. Okay. And that's just kind of a fancy way of saying that one side cancels out the other side as sound enters the sides of the mic. So that's one benefit to a shotgun, is that it rejects a lot of sound. All right. The other thing is the projection is very, very tight. So coming out of the 416, if you think of the vanishing point of a cone, if you're looking inside of it, right, that would be at the front of the mic, and then that kind of spreads out. All right. So as a result of that, a disadvantage is if I get slightly off the mic, I sound very different because the projection is very direct. But then once I'm on it, right, I'm on it. With a CAD, it has that broader kind of net, right, that cardioid pattern. And so you can move around and be slightly, more animated and whatnot. Now, if I travel with this mic, I was recently at an event where I was presenting called VO Atlanta, and Annie was there too. And we were the hotel's literally right on the concourse. I believe, Annie, wasn't the hotel called the Concourse?
The Renaissance Concourse. And on the side of the hotel I was on, you'd sit out on your balcony and look at the airplanes. You were on the air.
Yeah, literally like
really cool, except not for a VO conference.
Yeah, not for VO, but if you want to chill on a balcony and have, a plane land 100 yards from you, it's pretty cool, But on the non-concourse side, it's still pretty loud. But I had my 416, and I'm in my hotel room, and I know what to do in that situation. So does Andy. He has a travel kit with him, and sometimes he just uses, as you guys have seen probably in the video. I don't know if have you shown them the video of that we created. Because that you probably should sometime, but
when I was in Connecticut.
Yeah, well, when we kick off Andy's whole booth build, which we're going to do in the near future, you guys will see that video, and I trust me, you'll love it. Andy just basically built this kind of VO fort in his hotel room, and went on and talking about how I was torturing him with this booth build because I wanted everything to be perfect. And the story just kind of continues from there. And he breaks down. It's great. It's hilarious. But you can, take advantage of a lot of a lot of your natural surroundings in a hotel room. First of all, the microphone, the 416 is going to do a lot better in that scenario than the CAD. So, Paul, that's one part of it. Okay, but it's important to note, as long as we're talking about this, that you have VO who have several tricks up their sleeves. Joe Cipriano, he's one of the biggest promo guys, if not the biggest guy in the world. He actually voices typically with a ironing board that he puts up on top of the desk in his hotel room, and then he drapes duvets and all sorts of other stuff over it so he can kind of block the sound, and then he puts pillows inside, and then he takes he has the Apollo Twin 2 that I set up some presets for him, and he goes on his 416 through the Apollo with his computer in there, throws the stuff over the back of him. It sounds like a pro booth, and then he's voicing live via his card. I think he has a Verizon card or something like that, where he's voicing live, recording to that studio. He does Harry Connick Jr. show, for instance, would be one of the things that he would do, or a radio spot or a Disney spot or any number of things. Okay. And he can do that because he has the 416, right? Now the CAD is going to be a more sensitive mic, obviously, but it's going to have a little more character and personality than this mic will have. But to a certain degree, almost indistinguishable to your average Joe.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
Christian Lands recorded a paid spot for Disney in his hotel room on a 416 while his wife was in the shower.
There you go.
He had it packed up and put away by the time she got out of the bathroom.
There you go.
And I'm just like, what? That's insane.
Yeah. You guys have heard tons and tons of promos and commercials and so on that have been done from a car, from a closet in a hotel, to.
I watched Bo Weaver recording with a 416 from his car.
Well, he's got a van or something like that he.
Well, Bo Weaver is like one of the Hollywood guys. There's only a dozen of them that are really doing all that work, and it's.
Yeah.
But he says he can't go more than about 5 minutes from his house, though.
Exactly.
I can't find that video you're talking about, but I do have the video of me building that booth. I think you put it up somewhere. It's maybe one of your unlisted links.
I did. When we reboot the series, because you went off to camp and had all the cons that you were going to and signing autographs and whatnot.
Yeah. Leanne just put a link, and Leanne, somebody sent me this link the other day. This is so Tim, this is a kit on Amazon. I can't see the price, but it's a CAD E100S with a Focusrite Solo. And a pop filter and a boom stand and some headphones. What kind of headphones are those? It doesn't.
And how much is it?
ATH M20X closed back headphones. What's the price on that, Leanne? $650.
$650. It's a Focusrite. I would say no.
It's not a good deal.
That's a Focusrite Solo. I don't know. Those headphones and a microphone stand can be picked up from Guitar Center for $15.
Yeah, I've got two $9 mic stands that I'm using right now that are amazing.
Yeah, if you want headphones that are really high quality and aren't going to really break the bank, and I realize that this, what I'm saying right now is all relative to budget and whatnot, but the Bayer Dynamics, the DT 770 Pros. Let's see here if they have them.
I've got the Sony MDR 7506s.
Yeah,
I read somewhere were really good ones, so I bought them.
Well, headphones are really. It's all relative, right? So if you're a person who is going to be in the booth forever and ever and ever, all right, and you're wearing headphones because you want, I don't know, it might be a live session and any number of reasons. These are fully enclosed, by the way. These are the ones that I'm talking about. But these pads that are on here are kind of like, I like to say they're like kittens hugging your ears. Right?
Oh yeah, I was gonna say that's the kittens. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And they also this particular these particular headphones are they're not noisy. The parts, the way that they fit together, it's not cheap stuff, right? So when you're on mic and your jaw is moving and moving the cans, you're not going to get all these clicks and pops and whatnot. But you can wear them for a long time without getting fatigue, which is really important, right? So let me send everyone a link to the headphones that I'm talking about, so that everyone at least knows what I'm referring to here.
All right. And Kate just logged out. She said, "Thanks, Tim, for all the information tonight."
My pleasure.
And we have gone an hour and a half. It doesn't feel like that, does it?
No, it doesn't feel like that. No, it does not.
I never feel like that when you're talking to me. I just sit there and listen.
You're too nice.
I'm pretty nice.
You are a nice guy. That's true.
But send us that link, and then we'll kind of wrap this thing up. And just so I think at least one of our students has consulted with you and gotten your little free 15-minute consult before.
Yes, indeed.
I think it was Joe.
That was me.
Yeah, it was Joe. And he posted his before and after, and it was really good. So just know that if you get that 15-minute consult, it may not be enough. It's enough to find out that your microphone's backwards. But it may not be enough to find out, how to get my interface and all this sounding really good. And like Tim said, he'll develop some presets for you, things like that, where I've got some presets in my computer that I just always do every time I record something. And they're really nice.
Yeah, it does make a big difference when when you're set up, you're teed up properly. It's like anything in life, really. I mean, if you think about it. Yeah.
But like I said, this is the guy that you need to contact him throughout your career every time you get some new gear, unless you just kind of become that engineer expert. And the email is info@votechguru.com.
info@votechguru.com. And I just sent a link because I couldn't find the link to the headphones. So I sent everyone to my Amazon page, which is I don't know what it is. It's the vanity page. So it's my VOTech Guru page. And if you scroll down there, you'll see these Bayer Dynamic DT770 Pro 80 ohm.
Oh, those are so nice.
Yeah. And they're worth the spend. There are other headphones that are more expensive, but I use these to not only voice and to monitor and to listen back, but I've used these to mix, commercial, film, all sorts of stuff. And I love wearing them because I just can. And you're never going to get a better set of headphones to plug into like an iPad or an iPhone and actually have your mind blown by how good it sounds, because these have very little resistance. That's what the ohm rating is all about, the 80 ohms. Okay. Very low resistance, so you don't need to push them very hard. So if you have an interface like the 2i2, for instance, which doesn't have a ton of output on the headphone wheel or volume knob, you will get more gain out of that with these because they are more sensitive to what it is that's coming into the cans. So keep that in mind. But yep. Anyway, that's my recommendation for headphones.
All right. Awesome. So we certainly do appreciate your time, Mr. Tippets. You are the man. And we have gotten a fantastic 90 minutes out of this. That is for sure. And I think that you'll probably be hearing from some of these folks in the near future coming up.
Yeah, sure, guys. Just contact me. Let me know what your Skype or Zoom name is, however it is that you want to do it. I'm happy to give you 15 minutes of my time, and we can talk about your situation specifically. I mean, look, the majority of what it is that I do is all about voicing and composing, and I'm also into multimedia. But on the tech side of things, the reason that I got into this to begin with is because I was interviewed. A bunch of people found out that I knew stuff, and not only did I know it, but I do the stuff that I'm talking about. I got swarmed, right? So then this VOTech Guru, which I got called that, which I'm not a huge fan of that name because it sounds like I'm coming down off the mountain with tablets in my hand, but it's not my mentality, right? The reason that I do this is to help people sound the best that they can, because it's needed. And when you guys do well, I do well. Right. So that's why I offer the 15-minute, free consultation. We can talk about your situation, and then we can talk about, like I said, it's not a big money maker for me. I don't really charge, that much to help people with this. Obviously I charge something, but you're going to get a lot of value out of it if you decide to improve your situation. And at the very least, a free 15-minute consultation, as we just saw with Marianne's microphone, which took, I don't know, was that 2 minutes? Right. Just something as quick as that can really just kind of turn things, in a different direction for you. And so, feel free to contact me.
So Celeste, you got that new 416. That's something you need to do.
Yeah. You'll definitely want to be on point with that mic. Definitely want to get on point with that mic.
I will be reaching out to you.
All right. Cool.
Thank you.
All right.
You're welcome.
So, hey, let me throw a homework assignment out at you guys. Tim, you're welcome to go, or you're welcome to hang around. And I usually assign one of these people as a host because they stay and party for another 30 minutes or so. But
I'm going to hang out for the assignment just out of pure curiosity.
Okay. So you have two choices for your homework assignment this week. You can either continue to do or do what your assignment was last week. Last week, the assignment was spend 30 to 60 minutes on whatever you've decided over the past 2 or 3 months you really need to work on. And a lot of you have posted what you've been doing, really encouraging. Some people improve their space. Some people have downloaded Rob Marley's ebook and have started reading that. Some people have started doing some little auditions on Casting Call Club. So whatever you felt like, I think Matthew said he was got an enunciation coach or something like that. It was put himself out of his comfort zone to go work on that thing that he wanted to work on. So really cool watching you guys grow from that. Some of you didn't do it. And if you want that to be your assignment this week, then go ahead and let that be your assignment. You're paying for the course. It's not like you're going to flunk if you don't do your assignment. So if you want that to be, but if you felt like you kind of have advanced there, we're going to talk about marketing next week. So your assignment is to kind of start pre-reading, kind of get online and say, what about marketing as a VO? And while Tim is on here, he will confirm to you that the majority of your time as a voice actor will be spent finding work, not doing work. And that's what it's really all about, is figuring out how to get yourself seen and heard so that people will pay you for that. So be thinking or reading up on voiceover marketing. And so you can either do last week's 30 to 60 minutes of what do I need to do to improve, or you can pre-read on VO marketing so that you're more prepared for next week's talk on that. Questions? All right. Well, who wants to be the host? Oh, Ethan, you got it, man. Hang on. Let me see. Let me find you.
Ethan's volunteered.
Ethan, make him the host. You're now the host.
I have the power.
All right, kids. Good night. We will see you next Tuesday, and I will have this video up for you as soon as we can.
Andy, maybe I'll just. Can you still hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
So you guys, I'm just curious. You do what? You host, and you guys just like hang out for a while.
Basically. Yeah, and we just talk.
Because I don't let them talk in class.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Nominate somebody sacrificed every week, and usually it's Joe.
Then I'll leave you.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'll leave you with a little bit of fun from a preset that I created in my Apollo, so you guys can understand the power of this type of interface here. All right, let's see. Andy, you know what I'm about to do, I'm pretty sure.
I don't.
Okay.
This should be very interesting.
That's why I'm staying.
Here we go. I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Oh,
yes. I love it.
Nice.
What is it, General?
Oh my God, you sound just like him.
That's pretty good, man.
Like him.
That's pretty good.
And now I'm going to head back into my normal sound. So I bid you adieu and leave you with thoughts of Darth.
Thank you.
Cool.
All right, guys.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Well,
Right.
All right.
What did I miss?
You missed a lot, actually.
I think you did.
I had my mic turned sideways and I had no idea.
I thought you just
Wait,
had.
I did as well.
It's recording. Why is it recording
Like,
still?
Not because you didn't know.
No, I didn't know.
This could
I'm
be
so
bad for Andy.
sorry.
Well, I think I blame being
wait,
in
no,
choir and using
Yeah,
microphones
Ethan, why are you recording?
I don't
top
know.
facing.
Ethan,
Should
stop
we leave it
recording.
a recording?
No.
Why are you
maybe.
recording us?
I don't
You're
know.
recording.